All right, I'm sitting down today with Jessica Lynch.
Hello.
If you don't know who she is, she was the first POW in the invasion of Iraq,
Correct. Yes.
and
Thank you.
so that's her. I'm Ben Rednicki, or Benji, many people call me. I am a pararescueman, or was transitioning out right now and going into that phase of life of out of the military. And so I do have some questions about that. Before we get into it, I kind of want to go back and just ask about that experience you had as a POW, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I actually joined in September of 2001. So I left for basic training the week after 9/11, but actually had joined July, so it was still peacetime.
Yeah.
I had no plans of going into the military though. So my whole like life goal was to be a kindergarten teacher. I just wanted to get into the school system and yeah, be an elementary education teacher. And my brother, who is a year older than I am, had just finished up his first year of college back in 2001. And then we have a sister who's about a year and a half younger than I am. And none of us had plans of going into the military. It just happened that a recruiter showed up one day, and that was kind of the end of it. You know, we decided that it was going to be kind of the best option to go into the military, have college paid for. Again, it was peacetime, so we
Yeah.
didn't think anything of it. And yeah, and then I ended up over in Iraq.
So like leading up to Iraq,
Mhm.
like what was going through your head? What was your mindset at, as like, hey, we're going overseas and you're going?
You know, honestly, I thought we were prepared in the sense of like mentally, physically. I thought we were there. For me, I was like, okay, I'm with my unit. I have my best friend with me, who was my roommate. Um, you know, and you kind of make this bond with people in your unit, and you think, all right, this is we're safe, we're okay, we're together. You know, we're going to be over there with a bunch of other people, so it wasn't really crossing our mind of a bad wartime. You know, we were kind of looking at the positives of everything.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And like the training leading up to it, what did the Army, I guess, give you before? Like, how much training did you get before actually stepping overseas?
So, I mean, obviously, we did the just the basic stuff. I mean, you go to the range, you shoot, you practice, but other than that, I mean, we really didn't focus too much on what do you do if you are a POW?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you know, you have absolutely no clue, other than your survival instincts kind of kick in. Um, and then, I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit, but it was one of those things. Yeah, I mean, I was like, all right, we're good mentally, physically. You're prepared. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I just didn't think anything bad was going to happen to us because you never think that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
with that mindset going in.
yeah.
And then what did your family think, I guess, is another question I had.
Yeah, so my brother was actually stationed at Fort Bragg. I got the first orders to be deployed, and he was. I always tell him, I'm like, yeah, I saved you from from going over to Iraq at that time. But yeah, my family obviously was a little bit scared. They were nervous, but again, we were kind of just hopeful. I mean, I know that I kept telling them it's going to be okay. We're fine. Again, with our unit, nothing's going to happen. And then you just kind of, I don't know, let them know the best you can that things are going to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess like going into it, can you give me like a quick synopsis of the events as you remember? So we can get
Yeah.
just get like a lot of stuff on the internet, a
Yes.
lot of clouded, murky stuff, and I just would like to hear it from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually got deployed in February of 2003. So we went over to Kuwait. We were one of kind of the first ones over. Oh, well, not I guess the first ones, but we were kind of the big first group that kind of was waiting for all of the equipment, you know, your vehicles to arrive. So we were just kind of hanging out in Kuwait, and that's the time period of like things got real because then you would do kind of the drills of hiding in the bunker and you just kind of feel like okay, you know, things are happening now, like this deployment is actually real, like we are here and things are going to go down. But again, you just look around you and you're like, okay, again, I have my best friend by me, like nothing's going to happen. We're together. We have this mentality of like, you got my back, I got yours, and that's how we went into it. But it was March 20th, and we left Kuwait, and we crossed the border. Again, the first day was just kind of smooth sailing, like nothing bad had happened. I mean, we were wearing our full mop gear, so once we crossed over and we felt it was safe, then we were like, okay, things are like then calming down once you got past the border a little bit, because that first initial crossing where everyone was kind of putting things in your head of like, this could happen, be watchful of this, if the Iraqis come outside of their home, be very mindful of everything around you. But the first day, I mean, we didn't encounter anything bad. It was about the second day for my unit where we started to kind of lag behind. And my commander and my first sergeant, who were both acting first sergeants, acting first sergeant and commander. So our initial commander and first sergeant actually got removed from us in Kuwait. So they put in acting ones in place.
Oh, why was that?
Can't tell you.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just that they felt that, they weren't prepared
for
to.
it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they removed our actual commander and first sergeant and put us in with some acting ones. Our first sergeant, we didn't really know, other than just a little bit of time that we spent with him there in Kuwait. But again, you don't really know someone. The captain was actually our first lieutenant, so we did know him a little bit better because he was from our unit. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of made that decision. Well, they made that decision that half of our unit was going to push on with the rest of the convoy, because at this time we're still with the rest of the convoy pushing toward Baghdad. So they made that decision. So 31 of us in 16 vehicles stayed behind. Eventually, we grabbed 2 more soldiers with a 17th vehicle. So the day that we were actually ambushed, there was 33 of us in 17 vehicles. But yeah, that second day, again, we were out there digging and just kind of doing whatever we could to get these slower vehicles to keep up. And that's when the rest of the convoy left us. So we were literally left in the desert by ourselves, just the 33 of us trying to figure out where we were at, where we were going. When the reports came out, I think they said that they were like 19 hours ahead of where we were at. So they kept pushing, and we just kept getting further behind and off track. So, where we were supposed to be here, we were way off track. So our GPSs quit working, our handheld radio devices, nothing that.
It's a lot of equipment failure.
Yeah. I mean, well, it was just that the bases were so far ahead of us that we had nothing to communicate. Nothing at all of trying to figure out, say, where's the rest of this group?
Yeah.
And of course, the paper maps that, we were given didn't really do us any good, because we couldn't pinpoint exactly where we were at, because the more we were driving, it was just, we were, again, swerving this away when we should have been over here, and just completely off track. But the morning of March 23rd, we're looking up ahead of us and we see these lights. It was very early in the morning, and we drove toward it. And once we got up there, we realized that, okay, we hit Mina Road. And so we were looking at the map, and unfortunately made a wrong decision as well, and we took a wrong turn. But the lights that we kind of were heading toward, we actually thought was the rest of the convoy. So we were just like, okay, there they are. There's the lights. There's everything ahead of us. Let's get toward that. And unfortunately, it was not. And eventually, we ended up over in the city of Nazaria.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
A few questions I have on that. How much convoy training did like the people in that small group of you that got separated have prior to?
I mean, again, very little. I mean, we did convoys. So I was stationed out in El Paso, Fort Bliss. So we would go out to White Sands, which is over in New Mexico, and do some training over there. But again, I mean, you think that you're prepared for stuff like that, but when it's in a real world situation, you're like, oh, yeah, we were definitely not as prepared as what we thought we were. But I mean, we did a great job of sticking together, keeping our minds together. Nobody, went off of the deep end. It was just kind of
Yeah, just
communicating with each other and like, making sure that everyone was okay, that we were, eating and drinking and doing what we had to do. But as far as like real meals, we didn't actually stop to take time to eat. We didn't, we just didn't do that kind of stuff. And that was one of the other things that, we definitely got blasted for. And we took full responsibility for it, of the not taking enough time to clean our weapons. But we were constantly on the move. Like we didn't stop to I think we did a couple of times for a restroom when, there was 3 of us women, that was part of that small convoy, and, at one point, I remember, we looked out again, it's a desert situation, and you're like, "Oh, there's a bush. That's
yeah,
where the women are going to
do
go.
that.
Yeah, let's use that." But I mean, we didn't stop, so we were fatigued, I mean, completely exhausted by the time that we made it to March 23rd. It was just nonstop, no sleeping, no eating, just I mean, we ate, but it was
Yeah, but
more of
it's
like
just
picking, yeah,
throw it in real
like
quick. Let's keep going.
yeah, of whatever we could find out of, MREs or, crackers or Skittles or whatever it was, just to kind of keep us going. Um, but yeah, I mean, we were tired, we were fatigued, and just completely exhausted by the time we got there. So once we actually made it to a Nazaria, and again, it was very early in the morning. We made it across the bridge and into the city, and that's where we kept seeing these vehicles kind of drive by us, and that is the point where we were like, "Okay, we just made a huge mistake." I knew well, not I, but we as a group knew that we should not have been in that town. Again, we didn't even know where we were at because we couldn't
Yeah,
pinpoint exactly, where we were, even at that moment. But yeah, once we got in there, we saw this, in particular, one small white truck, and I'm gonna say it's kind of like I don't know, a very small white, maybe like a Ranger or, like one of the smaller trucks. But he kept passing us, and, he was basically figuring out who was in the vehicle, how many, and, what kind
collecting.
of vehicle or what kind of weapons we had. And then he was relaying it back to the middle of the town. And, obviously, we saw him do this, but
Of course, it
yeah, I
like I said,
mean,
heat of the
and
moment.
yeah, and you do what you have to do. And again, my commander and first sergeant made that decision. Okay, let's roll on. We got back in our vehicles because at this point we were kind of pulled off to the road, getting our bearings, figuring out exactly what we were going to do as a group. And we got back in our vehicles and continued on. And we made it about, like halfway through the city. And
Oh, into the city. Okay.
yeah, like, we were actually kind of into it, and, that's when they made the decision, "Okay, no, let's turn around, let's get back out of here," and, at that moment is when we realized, "Okay, we are having a harder time getting these, 18-wheelers turned around," just trying to figure out a place where we could all, do a UE and get back out of the city as quick as we could, because at this moment, you know, one, it's a city that we were not supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So the Iraqis were starting to come out of their homes. They're, standing up on the roofs. Some of them are just literally waiting for us, with a weapon of
Okay.
whatever choice was in their hand. And yeah, it was okay, let's lock load and get out of here as quickly as we could. But by that point, it was too late.
They've already
They
got the
ambushed
freaking
us.
package on you
Yeah,
essentially.
they
It's their
ambushed
city.
us. Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it was an entire city versus the 33 of us and these 17 vehicles. And and it was to just get out as quick as you could. And at that point, there was some of us going this way, some of us were going that way, some of us were, just kind of going as fast as we could to get back out of the city that we came, the way that we came. The um, first half of our convoy actually ended up making it on the other side. So we did actually have quite a few that escaped and was able to get out of there as fast as we could. The back half of us was not so fortunate, and that is where I was at. So I was in a Humvee in the rear of the convoy. Um, so my vehicle had actually broken down. So it was being towed, and yeah, it was at that moment of us being in that Humvee. So my best friend was driving. My first sergeant was in the passenger seat, and two soldiers, one the each side of me, and it was a 4-person Humvee. And when those two men that jumped in beside me, so I was like, "Oh, I've got nowhere to go." So I kind of jumped up, like on the transmission hump in the rear there. So I took a kind of seat up there just to make room for everybody to get in. And so as we were trying to return fire, is when we noticed that out of, let's see, one, six weapons that we had in that vehicle, 2 of them were working.
Wow.
The rest were malfunctioned.
Even did you have a 50 on the top or?
No, we did
No,
not. No,
nothing.
we did not. But it was mainly, just I think the 2 guys beside me had 249s. And then yeah, just even my first sergeant had a little pistol M9, and just all of them malfunctioned.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a shot off.
All the dirt in there accumulated over
Yeah,
days, a
yeah,
different
it was,
environment from.
and again, we were not on the track of everybody else. So again, we were just collecting all of that sand. And but yeah, so we tried to return fire, and unfortunately, we just couldn't.
Do you think it
And
would have even helped at that point?
I mean, it probably it might have helped, obviously, a
Yeah,
little
a
bit,
little bit,
but I
but you
mean,
have a whole city.
we were outnumbered, even the ones that were working. So we ended up with 11 KIAs, and 6 of us as POWs. But the vehicle that I was in, we were struck by an RPG on the right side of the vehicle. It caused the driver, Lori, to lose control. We actually ended up slamming into the back of a disabled 18-wheeler. So once we hit that, we were done for. Like we weren't moving. Um, but unfortunately, so Lori ended up passing, and then the 3 men that were in the vehicle were all shot and killed. So I was the only survivor out of the vehicle, and at some point I was knocked unconscious. We aren't sure when, we aren't sure how, because again,
It's hard to tell, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
TBI.
we got no one. No one in my vehicle survived it, so we have no one else to say, hey, she was alert during this point, or that, or she was hit by this or that. I mean, we've got nothing to go off of. But we know that I was knocked unconscious, because I have no memory of, that point. So after the ambush kind of subsided, and the Iraqis came around to determine who was KIA and who was still alive so that they could capture. They noticed that, everyone else was gone. So they took my fallen comrades to a shallow grave kind of site where they were burying our fallen. So they put them there, and for me, they drug me out of the vehicle and took me to one of Saddam's palaces that was nearby, and then that's where they ended up kind of breaking my bones. So um, we know that they snapped my right humerus, so that one was broke. At some point, my back was broke. Again, we are not sure exactly how that happened, whether it was during the crash, whether it was them jerking me out of the vehicle. And we have no proof, but we know that they snapped my arm. Um, they took a metal pipe, which was found where all of my clothes were because they stripped me of all of my military gear. So we found the metal pipe and they busted my lower tibia or my left tibia. And they were able to prove that because of the indent inside of my bone. Um, and then my right foot, where they pulled me out of the vehicle, had been completely crushed and kind of turned backwards from where they jerked me out.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, so after they kind of did all of that, and then I was transported to Saddam General there in Nasiriyah. So I did not see the rest of the POWs. The other former POWs were taken separately. They were held together, thankfully for them, because they transported them around a lot where they all could move. Shoshana unfortunately was shot in the ankles and Gump, we call him Gump, but he was shot in the buttocks.
Yeah. The butt
So
shot.
yeah, exactly. So Forrest Gump. But yeah, I mean, and we can laugh about it now, so it's not funny, and I don't mean it like that, but I mean we laugh about
Like
it now.
humor is a way
Yeah,
to cope.
it's
Like
it's
the
exactly.
many ways, it's one of the best ways to cope.
Exactly, and that's
But
how we have done it over the past 22 years. Thankfully, the former POWs and myself, we have been able to laugh, like you said, kind of stick together. We know at this point what we have all gone through, even though even the ones that were together, they all experienced something completely different. But for me, I was taken separately, and I was taken to Saddam General because of the back being broken, both legs, and of course my arm. So I was not able to move as easily as they were. So they kept me again kind of hid in a room inside of Saddam General. And at one point, I remember them taking me down to the operating room. And at this point, it's kind of still earlier on in my captivity, so I'm still, I don't know, like fogginess. Like I'm not sure exactly what's happening at this point because
you've already been dehydrated and low on
yeah,
food and
yeah,
discombobulated before it even
exactly.
happened. But now you've been in
Yeah.
a horrible incident, and
Yeah. So I mean you're just like, all right, what's happening? Where's all my comrades? What's going on? They kept one of those, heavy wool blankets over me. So um I wasn't able to kind of pick it up to figure out what all was wrong. I knew though that I couldn't move anything from my waist down. So I knew that I couldn't sit up because of the back being broken. I knew that I wasn't able to feel my legs. And at that point, it's almost like a scare factor of of looking under that blanket of what I was
what am I going
about
to
to do.
find?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though it was difficult to even kind of do, yeah, again, I was scared to see what was under there because again, I couldn't feel anything and I was like, all right, I'm definitely either paralyzed or my legs are gone.
Mhm.
Um, but they took me down to the operating room and I remember them putting me over onto the operating table. And at that point I'm like, okay, I'm one piece, but I still can't feel anything. But I remember the Iraqis that were with me, one of them could speak what I call broken English. So he could say a few things, but not have a full conversation with me. And yeah, he told me that they needed to put the oxygen mask over my face and then I needed to count. And I'm thinking, okay, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. So the more questions that I tried to ask him, I got no
You get
answers.
more
Like they,
confused
yeah,
as
yeah, they just wouldn't tell me anything. They wouldn't tell me what they were about to do, other than kind of at the end. Um, so I started crying and just begging and pleading with them just to please stop. Like whatever it is they were about to do, just please stop and let the Americans fix me. And obviously, you know how that went. And they were
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
whatever.
That
Yeah, exactly. Like, No. um, but of course, I mean, that's what I did, and I'm 19
I
at
was say you have
the
to remember you're
I'm
19 years old.
19, I'm in a foreign country, just went through this traumatic like experience, and again, I don't know where my comrades are. I know that I'm hurt and I'm just in so much pain. And he told me that they were needing to amputate my leg. And of course that made me cry even harder, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, no, please, just whatever you're about to do, just please stop." And eventually they stopped. Like he stopped and then put me back over onto, like the little gurney bed. And they transported me back upstairs, put me back over into what I will call the comfy bed because it wasn't your typical like, I don't know, like a hospital bed. It was more of a structured, like kind of where I almost sunk into it, I guess, because of the way my back was broken. Um, so yeah, I mean, they put me back over there, but I was moved around quite a bit. Like they kind of kept me hidden. So I would be sometimes even out in the middle of the hallway, and I'm thinking, okay, this is weird. Like, why am I out in the middle of the hallway? Um, and I never did get any answers on that. I mean, there
Yeah.
was always kind of speculations. Oh, it was so that the Americans could see her. Mm, I don't know that,
Yeah.
But I mean, like, and you just go with it. You're like, okay, well, I mean, this is what it is. This is me. This is what's about to happen. Like, I couldn't get up. I couldn't run. I couldn't, escape. I couldn't do anything. Um, but literally just lay there on that bed for the 9 days that I was in captivity. And I remember at one point, they put me in into an ambulance and said that they were going to return me to an American checkpoint. And then again, I'm like, uh, I'm doubtful, but there's nothing I can do. So they load me up and put me in the back of an ambulance, and away we went. And unfortunately, we never made it to an American checkpoint. I do remember hearing gunshots, and of course, the reports that came out was that they were fired upon, so they turned around. Um, and I don't know how much of that story is true, but we never made it to an American checkpoint, is all I know. But they did take me to like an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. Again, we found that out afterwards of kind of piecing together where they had moved me, but the electricity had been shut off and it was just completely deserted. There was nobody around. So they take me, they put me in there, and those what I call kind of the good guys, the good Iraqis. So they just left, and so I'm lying there and I'm thinking, okay, I've got a couple options. I can scream as loud as I can in hopes that there would be some kind of American on the outside of those buildings, maybe just passing by, maybe they're checking, maybe they're whatever it happens to be, that would that would be the best thing. But if I scream, what happens if, there's the Iraqis, militiamen, the
Yeah. Who
Fedayeen,
knows who's on?
yeah, who
A lot
I
of
had
people.
no idea who was on the outside. I just knew that there just was not a lot of noise happening. I was even praying for, hearing kids, like, because I knew if I could hear some kids playing or screaming or, being joyful in that kind of a manner, then it would have gave me a little bit more of like a calming sense of like, okay, if they're playing, then maybe it's nothing bad outside. But I heard nothing. And so that kind of scared me again of like, okay, if I scream, what happens if I get put into the hands of the wrong people? So I decided to just lay there and again hope and pray and do whatever I had to do. I gave myself a bunch of pep talks. So, like, Jess, come on, you've got this. Like, it doesn't matter how much pain you're in, you can do this. Like, just keep fighting one more day. You don't want to give up. And um, it was just a constant kind of battle in my own head. Like, I'm done. I'm exhausted at this point. Again, not sleeping.
How much pain were you in at this point?
Um, Quite a bit, to be honest, but as the days went on, you become numb to it, if that kind of makes sense. Like it's almost like your body is like, okay,
Yeah.
you're accepting of like of what your body's going through at that moment. So I was like, okay. I knew though that anytime I tried to move, that's when it would spark like, oh, yep, don't do that. Like, let's get
Later.
back to a calm sense. Yeah. But I mean, there was so many times that I wanted to just, try to pull myself up and do whatever I could to
Yeah.
just to see what was wrong. But again, I was like, okay, no, because again, I thought I was paralyzed and, in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, what if I pinch a wrong nerve? What if I, do try to set up and something crushes and then I am paralyzed for good? So a lot of those things kind of run through my mind, but it was just a agonizing, uncomfortable feeling by time you're there. Like it's just kind of you get used to the pain and you're like, all right, processing it, and you just yeah. As much
Yeah.
as I was in, I mean, you
Your
just kind
body
of like
can
yeah,
well,
you
pretty
yeah,
remarkably.
exactly. I mean, and that's everyone. And everyone's like, because I hear that all the time of people saying, I don't know how you did it. You would have done it too. Like once you're put in that kind of situation, you do what you have to do, and you realize how strong you actually are. So, but yeah, moved around quite a bit, and those Iraqis did eventually come back and get me, took me back to the hospital, and again, kind of moved me around the
Yeah.
hospital to keep
Repairs
me.
all the
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It was just kind of again, I don't know if they were hiding me from certain people coming into the hospital looking for me. Iraqis is I don't know. I just knew that, some days I would be over here, some days I would be over here, and but they did kind of keep me, for the most part, contained to one room. Like so, that's kind of where they hid me. Um, but the morning, or I guess the night of April 1st, I could hear the Humvees, I could hear the helicopters, I could hear the tanks roll through, I could hear bombs going off in the distance, I could hear gunshots. And then that point in my mind, I said, "This is it." Like knew the Americans were nearby at that point. I knew that they were outside. I just didn't know that they knew I was there. So I was thinking, yep, they're about to bomb. They're about to take over this building, not knowing that I'm in here. Um, and then this is it for me. So I was just playing it through my head of like, okay, like you got this, like, and you play happy thoughts of like home and that's how I was kind of coping with it at that very moment of instead of like kind of thinking, hey, they're about to rescue you. That never crossed my mind of like they knew that I was in there. And again, I come from West Virginia, a very small town. So I'm thinking, okay, nobody knows who I am. I made PFC at this point. Like they don't care about they don't care about me. I'm just one of, you know, hundreds of thousands that's in that country right now. Like they don't know where I'm at. They don't care about me. Like I'm not on that radar. And the moment I could hear outside of the hallway them yelling, "Where's Private Lynch?" I was like, okay, I can hear my name. I knew that it was in English and I could understand it. But again, that fear of inside of like, oh, what if these are Iraqis speaking English? What if they finally, figured out where I was at? So and again, my mind went completely the opposite direction of instead of being this is it for the Americans coming in. I was thinking, okay, this is it because this is the Iraqis coming to get me.
Okay. You thought
Yeah,
it was like the actual Iraqi army and
yeah. I assumed that was how this was going to play out, and so I'm scared, I'm nervous, but I knew that my name was being called and they were looking for me. And the moment that the doors open and those Iraqi men that were inside of the room with me were let out. And I looked up and The first thing I saw was the PJ on the arm, and I'm like, "Okay." Like, right? And you knew that, "Okay, this is it. This is it." Like, and, I will never forget, like, him saying that, they were Americans and they were here to take me home, and, and as corny as it is now, but I remember saying, "Yeah, I'm an American soldier too." And, that was kind of the it. Like, they were very quickly was able to whisk me out of there, get me down to an awaiting helicopter and, to kind of a safe spot, and then off to Kuwait and
Yeah.
off to Germany,
To
yeah.
do all the rehab aspect.
Yeah,
Wow.
ugh, it was crazy. Those first few hours of being rescued, I was so out of it. I think because I knew at that point I was safe, and my mind said, "Yep, I'm done." Like, I'm exhausted. I hadn't slept, because even in the hospital, the Iraqi hospital, I was scared to close my eyes. I was scared to, do any of that, especially after they took me down to the operating room. Like, at that point, it was like, okay, now I do have to stay awake because I don't want them to do something to me. Um, but to come to find out that, so once I got to Germany and they did, the evaluation and checks and everything, they determined that, they had actually Iraqis, they, removed my bone and replaced it with a 1940s era rod that was fit for a man. I'm only 5'3", so very short for that rod that they placed inside of my body,
Yeah.
but it was unsterilized.
Oh,
So that is the reason that, the Iraqis wanted to amputate the leg. They wanted to just kind of do away with it because of the infection that had set
the
through.
sepsis that it might taking you
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. But I was able to fight and keep the leg, and,
Yeah.
today I still have the leg. I don't have any feeling, basically below my knee, but I'm okay with that. Like, I still get around. I'm able to walk. I can, do everything that everybody else can do. A little bit slower and sometimes not as well.
Yeah.
Or, I can't wear high heels. I can't wear flip flops. I can't do that kind of stuff. But I don't care. I have my leg and I have my life.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for telling like such a detailed
Yeah.
account, like for me to like really like get there and for the
Yeah.
viewers as well. I guess that'll transition perfectly into like the mental health aspect because it seems like you're taken care of by the American, you know, doctors well.
Yeah.
It's like rehab, they give
Mhm.
you a full plan.
Yeah.
I assume they've been kind of checking up on the physical health,
Mhm.
your whole process, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we got to remember this is 22 years worth of going through everything.
Yeah.
But for me, so I mean, yes, the mental aspect was just as exhausting and draining as the physical. But we spent a lot of time. I mean, I'm still in physical therapy, working and trying to keep everything up, especially with the back. As you get older, yeah,
Yeah, the back's probably gonna go. It doesn't need any help.
exactly, exactly. And of course, my legs don't work as well anymore, so it's a lot of strain on the back. But I'm still in physical therapy. But um, for the mental, it was them putting me into therapy to kind of cope with what I had just been through. And I didn't respond to it that well. And I'm just going to be honest,
No, please.
because everyone brings this up of like, you must have had great therapists. And I'm like, I did, but it wasn't for me. Like, I just didn't do well with therapy in that manner. Like, mentally, I could not sit down and hash through everything that I had went through day after day after day, because I just never got any better. So for me, and again, I'm not telling no one not to go through
No, of
therapy
course.
because, you have to find what works for you. What worked for me was one, mentally, like, figuring out who I was, because as you come back and you're always told, well, now you're just a broken soldier. We hear that phrase all the time. And
Wait,
I
that's what people were telling you?
oh yeah, I mean, like, you're a broken soldier. Like, you're never going to do much now because, you can't walk the same. You're walking with a limp. My right arm was broken. So it's not as strong as as it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I heard that phrase so many times, and I was like, okay, now what? Like, yes, I am, but there's so much more to me than just being a broken soldier.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change that. And for me, it was figuring out who I was, you know. And one of the biggest things that helped me was deciding to go back to school. So I had to kind of go back and be like, okay, what was my goal before I went into the military? That was to be a kindergarten teacher. So I was like, all right, check. And I enrolled in school. So it was just kind of making a list and having a support system. And that was my family and my friends.
Yeah.
And it was huge on because I had to find the right friends that wouldn't judge me, but would listen, but would still give me like feedback when I needed like
That's a very
snap out of
thin
it.
line to
Yeah.
have someone on.
We all have those friends that will sit and listen to you, but I needed those good friends that would snap me out of it if I was having, yeah, like because when we come back, we are not the same physically or mentally. And I don't care if you went through as a POW situation or not. I'm sure you guys probably felt the same when you come back home, like, your family, your friends, it's just not the same. Um, so for me, it was like, okay, finding those friends that would tell me, shut up, like snap out of it. It's just something that you're experiencing. And again, it was so helpful for me to know that I was experiencing some of the same thing that, some of my Marine buddies or, some of the ones that I was in the military with, or sorry, the Army with. Um, I had some SILs that would reach out to me and said, hey, I was there, I dug up the bodies of my fallen comrades, and they were going kind of through the same mental aspects of like what they saw, what they experienced. It was all kind of, flashbacks of coming back. And one of them even told me the smells that they had smelled that day, they will never forget. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, mine not so much smells, but the sights, when you're looking around you, the sceneries, all of those things kind of just like pile up on you
Yeah.
and you don't realize it until you are either going to explode or you have those good friends that will be like, okay, come on, lay it out on me. But I have one really good one that it didn't matter if I was crying, whether I was screaming at her, whether I was just, hashing everything out. She was like, okay, cool. And she would be my listening ear, but then she would give me the feedback. And
Yeah.
that's what I needed. Like, okay, it's great to have those listening ears.
Yeah, but you don't want to just be coddled either, right?
I didn't want, yeah, and I didn't want that. Again, I wanted people who were going to be up and honest and upfront with me of like saying, okay, we are all experiencing things. Here's what we're going to do to get over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what worked for me. So the pills that they kind of give you to make you head better did not work for me
Yeah.
either. So I cut out all of that medication. I didn't want to
Good for
take
you.
any kind of medicines that were, and again, I'm trying to be very gentle with my words here because
Yeah.
I don't want to, call out any specific medicine because I don't want people to say, well, I'm on that,
It's
but
working
I
for
get
me.
off
Yeah, you
of
get
it.
off it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like very individual
So
basis.
then everybody's different. For me though, it did not work. It did not work taking a handful of different pills and saying, here you go when you have a bad dream or that you don't think that you are mentally in the right space. Take these pills, come and see your therapist. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah. It's funny you're hitting on this because I've been thinking about this too as I come back, and I think you are hitting on the same like vein that I think about. I call it like this. You look behind the veil when you go overseas, and there's this ancient, I call it like an ancient pain
Yeah.
list of the human condition for conflict. And you see it, and you go over there and you're like, well, I can't unsee that. But then you come home and you're around all these people, and then you're like, I just saw like this ancient thing, like this
Mhm.
big beast, and I'm supposed to come back and then just rejoin the rat race. And then when I do like get overwhelmed by this, seeing this, I'm supposed to numb it with medication or disassociate with, some people use drugs, whatever, alcohol, you name it.
Yeah.
And it feels very alienating for me. It's been very like, okay. And then when you do go to like try to describe this to people, oftentimes they'll try to just either like listen and not say anything. But then I think what you got at is like, I just want to be understood, and I want to not solve this problem because I don't think I can solve human war, right? I'm
Right.
not that
Yeah.
I'm not that cocky about it, but I think like if by understanding it, like by understanding what it is I'm looking at right now and why is it affecting me this way, I think it can help you or help me and others like heal from it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not going to stop the conflict, but I
No.
think we can change how we heal.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that we cope as humans right now, and especially in the military, and this is my hot take, and I'm just going to put it out there, I think we should be hypercritical of how we handle veterans going back from war and
Exactly.
how the military does it, because we need to improve that. And I think right now that everyone says like, hey, the mental health systems, like they're doing their best. Like doing their best is not right, because I always feel like it's just a little too late for the acute
Yeah.
phase, and then that's where we're losing people, right? That's where people like they lose their light, and then that's when they, unfortunately, suicide and other destructive
Nailed
behavior
it.
comes in, right?
Nailed it. Like you nailed it exactly. And I was there. I was to one point where I didn't want to be here anymore. Like I was hurting physically. Like I was like, okay, I'm never going to be the same physically. Um, Mentally, I knew that I was completely off. Like I
Yeah,
knew that
terrifying.
there's nothing like, yeah, I mean, the nightmares that are constantly kind of, and people, and it does get easier over time. I will say that, as time goes by, it does get a little bit easier. But the things that you see or you're witnessing, or the loss of your friends or whatever it happens to be, never goes away. Like it just never goes away. And that's the thing that gets everyone. But it's how you deal with it and how you kind of cope. And again, I'm not no psychiatrist. I'm not claiming to be, but I know what worked for me, and that's kind of all we can do is kind of tell people, hey, sometimes it's not the pills and sitting down to a therapist. Let's figure out a different way to go about this. And you have to find what works for you. And sometimes it's not the VA's way of doing it. So you got to kind of think outside of the box. And again, for me, it was finding hobbies and getting up and doing stuff.
Yeah,
And
movement, right?
yeah, I mean, just finding something to
plasticity.
do to take my mind off of that. Because if the longer I sat, the worse it would get. Yeah, I mean, there was one day I just got in my car and I was like, I'm done, I'm gone. Don't care,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get outside of my city because I didn't want my family to find me. But where do you go? What do you do? But all this played out in my head of like, I had it all planned out, and I got there and um, I ended up calling one of my best friends who lived in a different state because at that point, I knew if I called her, she couldn't get to me. So whatever I was planning on doing, I would be kind of safe in that manner that I
yeah,
could go ahead and pull it through. But so I called one of my friends that was in a different state, and I just bawled to her like, I don't know what to do. I'm going crazy. Everything's coming back. I'd be driving down the road and I would see these Iraqi men who were, in, let's say, a semi or even just a regular vehicle passing me on the interstate. And I would think, that's
yeah,
them. They've got a weapon and they're pointing it at me.
of course.
And sometimes there is not even no one around me, but you see, and the visions that kind
Yeah,
of just come back at you. And so I completely understand when people say that they are to the end, like they don't have anywhere else to go, they don't know what else to do. I've been there. Like I can at least say that I have been there. I know that pain, but I also know the strength that I had to pick up that phone and call my friend and say, I need help.
that's that takes a lot of mental
It does.
courage, I think, to actually admit like, hey, I'm like hurting a lot right
I'm
now.
hurting.
And I do like what you said about, because I think that's a reality I've had to face too, of the pain and loss. It's never going away.
No.
And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's part of you now, but I think how you live with it is like, and how you live is how you honor that legacy is the only way I can really justify it at this point. Do you mind if I read you a quote
Go ahead.
from from one of my favorite authors? And it's going to seem a little dark, but I promise there's a light at the end of the tunnel. All right, so this is from Haruki Murakami in the Wind Up Bird Chronicle. So, I happened to lose my life at one particular moment in time, and I've gone on living these 40 years or more with my life lost. As a person who finds himself in such a position, I've come to think that life is a far more limited thing than those in the midst of its maelstrom realize. The light shines into the active life for only the briefest moment, perhaps only a matter of seconds. Once it is gone, and one has failed to grasp its offered revelation, there is no second chance. One may have to live the rest of one's life in hopeless depths of loneliness and remorse. In that twilight world, one can no longer look forward to anything. All that such a person holds in his hands is a withered corpse of what could have been. I'll let you sit and digest that so I can kind of describe this. But I know that seems very dark and like hopeless. And this is a character in a book, so it's not like this is how life is. But I think it's highlighting a point of how people feel, like how I felt when I literally stopped feeling anything, which is more terrifying than feeling awful. Right?
Yes.
And the numbness hits, and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, I don't care anymore.
Yes.
That's like that's. And I look back, and like I look back in more terror at that moment than any of like my war experiences, because it's like I almost lost myself. Like I was walking like a hollow person almost for over a year and a half and that kind of stuff. But I think it kind of goes into like the idea that I think of it as is each human's born with this beautiful light, right? And we go through life, and especially that early adolescence, when your prefrontal cortex is about to get fully developed in the mid-20s. So like before that, in your 18, 19, I think it's really hard to say like, yeah, I understood what I'm getting into, as opposed to like if I now look back, it's like, oh, I had no idea. Like I thought I knew, but like I had no idea. And then you have this light, and I think a lot of organizations, not always, but I think it's really dependent on the culture of where you're at, doesn't really foster this light sometimes. They use it like, oh, they see that motivation. Oh, we can take you into this machine. And instead of like fostering and building up, they just wring the light out of you. And then once it's all out, like, okay, well, we'll just give them some VA healthcare, and like that's the VA's problem now. But we got what we needed. The machine keeps grinding. And
Sad but true.
I think
Sad but true.
I mean, that's how I feel. I'm not saying that's universally how everyone in the military should feel, or that that's what the military is doing to everybody. But I think it happens a lot.
It does.
And when you're stuck in this place of hopelessness, like my light, I feel like, I was like, where is my light? Like I didn't have that pep in my step. Like I hadn't woken up in years with like excited to get out of bed, like just tired every morning, no matter how much I slept, right? 'Cause I'm not really sleeping. And I think though the hope is, like, I think you are the example of someone who fostered their light back somehow. And that is incredible to me.
Thank you.
And the way I view it is, it's like, it has to be so carefully done though. Like it's not medication. It could be part of the solution, but it's not just disassociating, not facing. I think what you're telling me is you actually looked yourself and like saw yourself and like, I'm going to actually look at this and just like see what it is. And that takes a lot of courage, I think. And it feels like almost like someone trying to kindle a flame in a storm and like in a survival situation, right? But it's like in your soul. And so like, I guess.
That's exactly how it was though.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so getting into that, so it sounds like, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, like it was, not all, and again, like systemically, I don't think, like for me too, I didn't really respond to therapy. I gave it my best shot, sleep studies, all of it. For me, it was just sitting down and doing a lot of shadow work and looking at it, and like being assisted with psychedelics really helped me personally. But, that they just give you the tools to work on it when you're sober. But for me, I guess maybe I think personally my thesis statement is that this light is rekindled through some form of connective human experience. And for me, my connective human experience is music and art and photography, right? Like, so I think creating for me is how I think it's like the magic we have as humans is we can create. And so I think it's actually like created energy in people is that light you're bringing back when it comes to like, for me, music. It was, I was just walking around one day and this song comes on YouTube, and I'm like a zombie, and I was like a moth to a light. It was like, I'm feeling things. This is incredible. And like, this is insane. And I can do this. And I went to the concert and like had my entire ego blown away by this thing.
And it's the best feeling at that moment of like, and you find yourself though. I mean, it's like you actually like, oh, okay. there's actually somebody else in here that
Yeah.
understands what I'm going through, and you just connect. Um, and that was my daughter. So I didn't really have a purpose other than going back to school. Like I had my goals. I was like, okay, I know what I want to accomplish now. But once I had my daughter, and I've talked to other veterans as well, and they're like, their children has helped them kind of cope out of, hard spots as well. When they look at their kid and they're like, oh, I don't want to see, my child grow up without their mom or their dad or um, so to me, it was a lot of that. Like I would look at her and be like, "Oh, like I don't want her to grow up and not have a mom." So that was one of my fighting forces too. It was like, all right, no, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep persevering. Like I don't care how bad it hurts, you gotta keep doing it. Like you just gotta overcome whatever it is, that struggle or the obstacle that I'm facing at that very moment. Because watching her graduate high school or, college or whatever, she does in life, like I want to be there for that. And I want her to kind of see me as that strength as well. So and that again, that was me of how I coped and how I did things. It was just again finding a purpose. Like you said, music for me, it was setting goals. Like I wanted to go back to school, I wanted to do this, I wanted to be able to travel, I wanted to be able to do. And again,
To live,
yeah,
live again, like
you
actually live, not
you have
just
to
to go through
find, yeah,
life.
you have to find things. Because I'm gonna be honest, the day that I was rescued, we'll kind of go back to that,
Yeah.
but the day that I was rescued and they took me to Germany, and I kind of, I don't know, woke up really for the first time of like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't scared. I wasn't kind of like hiding at that moment. Like you kind of like, oh, okay. Even though I was going through a bunch of surgeries and they one of my family members ended up taking a video of me, and it showed me completely like skin and bones. I mean, at this point, I was, again, well, I think by that point I would have been 20, but I was 19 when I was a POW. And I was about, I think they said around 76 pounds when I was rescued. So I was not given any food or water during my captivity. So I didn't receive any
Yeah.
kind of nutrients like that. Um, but once I saw what I looked like at that state, I knew that that was going to be also my fighting force. Like, had to get better. I had to be able to put that person that I came back as away and become a new person. And again, it's all about your mindset and who you are, and I tell everyone, I'm like, you've got this. Like you can be as strong as headstrong as you want, and be that. Because people are stubborn. Let's be honest. Some of us are just stubborn. So you can put that out there, but deep down inside, you got to want to be able to better yourself, and sometimes that is taking a step back, crying, get it all out of your
Yep.
system, and
I
then
still cry to this day. That's okay.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
And I tell guys that all the time. I'm like, listen, I don't care. It actually makes you more manly because
Facing
it,
your feelings.
yeah,
Right?
it
Well, I think
makes
like
you.
really understanding these feelings is like when you cry, you're like, wait, oh, and like I got it out. And it's like, like letting it hit you instead of, I think, a lot of people, especially like in our career field, compartmentalizing is
Yes,
necessary.
it is.
But if you don't go back and unpack that, it doesn't go away. It actually grows and grows and grows. And then when you go to unpack it, it's like explodes on you, right? And so just,
Exactly. So people hold it in so much that it either escapes by anger, by you doing something stupid,
yeah,
because we've all seen that
behavior, my
destructive.
favorite things to do when I'm not doing well, right?
Exactly. And but then also, again, there's the suicide because they can't take it any longer and they don't know where else to turn to or who to turn to. So there's all kinds of things that people just there's avenues that you could take on that mental aspect that you can overcome it. You can overcome anything that you were put through.
It's amazing. And from that, I guess I had a few questions.
Yeah.
Just because now it's how many years? It's like wow, okay. It's like where's Jessica now? But I
Yeah.
do want to know how was it dealing with the media and like did you ever feel like you were like a piece of propaganda almost like like the war bonds in World War II like yep we gotta go over here and like just get more people to support the war and like how did that feel for you?
Very much so. That was probably also one of the hardest parts of coming back. So, I mean, now not only was I at that very moment, dealing with losing 11 of my friends, being a POW and that traumatic experience that I went through, physically going through all of these surgeries to get better. And then they throw on top of me that, oh, now we are using you as, so at first I had absolutely no idea what was going on. I was kept away from all media senses. I knew that I had just went through something that most people hadn't, but to actually know what was happening did not hit me until July of 2003 when I got out of Walter Reed. At
Yes,
that
yeah,
point is when, oh, like I knew at that point that I was different. And
yeah,
I mean that in like a good way, but I mean, like I knew at that point that I was not your just typical soldier returning back home. Like at this point, I was like, okay. But again, at Walter Reed, I was kept away from watching the news. I was kept away from all newspapers. Like again, I knew that I was different in the sense that, the propaganda aspect, just because of the way that I was treated,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, yeah,
But it actually did not hit me until I got out of the military and was actually home that, oh, this was a much bigger deal. Because at that point, then I was able to go back and read all the newspaper articles. It's weird to say
yeah.
newspaper articles now because like people are
Some
like,
listeners are like, what are you talking about?
what newspaper? But at the time, I mean, you everywhere you looked, I mean, there was newspapers of being printed of this and that of what was happening in Iraq, and literally my face was
All over it.
all over it.
Like even
And
I remember I was like oh, I was 11 years old at that point. So I still remember. I was like, oh
yeah,
yeah, like you became kind of a symbol for like the cost of war in a way, like
yeah,
a surviving symbol of it.
yeah.
And how does that? I guess how does that feel?
Okay, so here's what I tell everyone. Okay, um, I think the reason, even though again, there were 5 other POWs that were in my unit, and then 2, I believe they were Air Force, 2 Air Force pilots that were shot down. So there were 7 of them. But I think the reason that mine hit bigger was that I was the first one rescued. Had it been the other way around, I think you know what I mean? I think
Yeah, it's because like it's
it
got to
would
be
have
a victory
just
for the
been
U.S. We
yeah,
gotta like look,
yeah.
we got them back.
So I
Yeah,
think it just so happened that I was the first one rescued. And that is why my face was literally planted everywhere. And so I don't think it has anything to do with me being, well, at the time I was blonde. I'm a natural blonde, but, so I don't think it had anything to do with oh, she's a blonde hair, female, 19 years old. I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it was literally just the fact that I was
timing. Yeah,
captured or rescued first. Um, and I'm glad that I was. So don't get me wrong. Like
yeah,
I'm glad
of
that
course.
I was out of there, and not because of the media or anything like that. It was the fact that I knew that my body was eventually going to give out. Like I was holding out for as long as I could. Like, but eventually I knew that you know the infection in my leg would have eventually got me. Not eating, not
Yeah,
drinking, not like
malnutrition.
I was just to the point where I was completely tired. Like I was done for. Like I didn't
Yeah,
know how much longer that I
it,
could hold on.
it's gotta be a
So
terrifying feeling when you feel like that exhaustion. Like
yeah,
because they say like even working in the hospital forever, it's like there's an intangible to like people surviving is that like
yeah,
how much how long can their body hold on for? Like, and you were like right at that point, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's
I
gotta be
mean,
a
and I probably wasn't,
no,
but
yeah.
that's what you feel
No,
like.
mentally
Like
though, yeah.
mentally you feel that. And of course, not being able to communicate with anybody. I didn't have any other Americans that were talking to me that I could have, just a conversation with. I think that would have helped too,
Yeah.
just having somebody there with me where,
Commiserate. It's just
yeah,
sharing your thoughts, and you can go pretty
and
crazy if you get stuck in
and
thought.
and then you're surrounded by 3 Iraqi men the whole time. It was just one of those, like, feelings, so I'm very happy that I was rescued,
Yeah,
not saying I'm happy that I was rescued first, but I'm just so
of
happy
course.
that
Sure, the
they were
relief.
able to get in there and, they were able to get me out, and it just so happened that I was the first one rescued since I think they told me that I was the first one rescued since World War II. So there was other POWs in the first Gulf, as we all know. So I'm not taking anything away from them, but apparently, what I was told was they are considered released, where I was actually the first one rescued. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I think again that was a part of the big
the big
to do. Yeah.
aspect of it. And then for me, as I'm working through, 'cause, I'm a veteran of Afghanistan, and it's, how that was handled. Uh, and we're not trying to like delve into the politics of it all. And just the dealing with that has been difficult because you go over there, you lose friends,
Yes.
and then you come back, and then you see that the politicians really don't care how they exit or how good we look. So then that's been very difficult for me. And then I wonder,
Agree.
like, how's it been for you? Because I'm still trying to understand the invasion of Iraq. And like, what are your thoughts on that? Like the whole Iraq war and you
Oh,
going to it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, in the very beginning, you're again, you're kind of pumped. Like you know what you're over there to do. Like you're being sent over there again with my buddies and friends. But you get over there and now you're looking at it like, oh, should we have been over there? I don't know. I mean, was it the right thing to do? I don't know. But unfortunately, I do know that we lost a lot of good men and women, especially the first days of Iraq. And you just have to make the best of the situation. I mean, unfortunately, we can't go back and
Yeah.
tell those politicians, "Hey, let's not do that." It is what it is at that point. So now we just got to learn from our mistakes and keep going and hope that we don't end up back in Iraq or Afghanistan
Yeah.
or
Not over there, really? Right?
yeah.
Do you ever like feel like there's parallels to like pre-invasion Iraq and then like current like geopolitics, I guess? Like, is there any like
Yeah, I mean,
similarity?
so I'm going to be honest. So when I was again, I'm 18,
Hmm.
19 years old. I didn't really pay attention to too much of, politics and what was happening in the world around us. I mean, I knew enough that again, especially once 9/11 happened, your senses kick in a little bit more. But I mean, at 18 and 19, you're just kind of going with it and you're living life and you're, trying to make the best of it. And for me, it was just doing what I was told to do. Hey, President Bush said you need to deploy. Oh, now President Bush says you need to get into Iraq. So you just kind of it
Yeah,
is what it
you don't
is.
have a
It just
choice in the
yeah,
military.
you
Yeah.
don't have a
I
choice.
think
And
that's something that I like to like highlight. It's like it's the people's choice to join, right? But it's not their choice where they go and what they do, which is the unfortunate aspect of it.
yeah,
Which I think like why the 18 and the dotted line thing is
mm,
it feels a little sinister in the sense of like even at 18 like, I didn't care about politics either. Right? I was like, yeah, I don't really care. But like in my mid 20s I did.
right,
And so it's like it does feel almost predatory where they get these people that are full of, all this motivation, they want to make a
exactly.
difference, and then they're like, yeah, we'll make a difference like in the Middle East. And it's like, okay, that I don't know if that's okay. And then they don't really like I said, like I think there are efforts to help with
Yes,
mental health, but I think it's not tailored to the individual. It's the classic bureaucracy of here's our cookie cutter system, and like if it didn't work for you, oopsie, which I think is kind of difficult. And so I guess to wrap this up
mm,
all in one and put a nice little bow on it is like, yes, there's an ancient pain of that war. Well, it never changes, but I think
right.
how we cope with it can, right? And I think
Yeah.
like talking with you, it sounds like the non-traditional route. I'm not saying that's how you have to do it. And if
Exactly.
you're seeing, a mental health specialist, please keep doing
Please
that.
keep doing
Yeah,
that.
I'm not
Yes.
saying to like, but I'm saying like if something's not working for you, like
You have to find what
yeah,
works for you,
find
and
yourself.
everybody is different. And again, I don't, everyone in this room is going to one feel pain differently. What I feel pain as, you're on that scale to 1 to 10, even though it might be the same bone being broke, your pain is not going to be my pain.
Yeah, I'm screaming like
Yeah, so everyone reacts differently to what you go through, how you are doing it, and you just hope that you come out on the good side of the pain spectrum, physically and mentally, of what you're trying to accomplish with your life.
that's amazing. I think I'll end it with one more
Yeah.
quote, and then I have one question that's
Yeah.
unrelated to all that, just for my curiosity.
Yeah.
So this is from the band that really brought me back to life, I'd say. Everyone's gonna laugh because I never shut up about them, but Manchester Orchestra, and the song is Cope. But this is the last few lines of it I really like. It's, I hope if there's one thing that I let go, it is the way that we cope. And I hope if there's one thing that we know, from the way that you and I will wander on, and we won't become a lifeless lope that wanders round and hopes for sorrow. And I know. So
I like that.
there's the hope to all this kind
Yeah.
of heavy stuff. I think ending it with a hopeful note. And then my big question for you is, what is your favorite form of art?
Um, Again, I don't. Oh gosh, that one's a tough one. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been asked that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like hearing that.
That I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever been asked that. So it kind of um I don't know. I like things that just kind of speak to me though.
Yeah, when you
So
know what you see,
yeah,
like I guess what's like a piece of art in the last 10, 20, 30, even forever that you're just like, I like that. And you don't have to tell me why you like it, just I like it.
I like it. Yeah. So I mean, I do. So in a physical art aspect of that, but I mean, I'm like you. I like music. I like anything that kind of, again, one day it could be us listening to country music. The next day, we're jamming out to Taylor Swift. The
Yeah.
next day, listening to MGK. Like it's completely different. Just kind of how your mood is and how you kind of feeling that day, because you need to be able to kind of transform every single day and not just get stuck in the same little bubble. You need to be able to kind of again find what works for you
Yes.
in a bigger sense of this world and just go with it.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sitting down.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Would you
Thank
like
you.
a hug?
Sure.
Yeah.